Hello, we are alive. Day 3 of going live. As a reminder, I'm going to go live every single night at 7 p.m. Pacific until I'm back with my kids. And every night I'll just be working on my family court documents and then kind of going over like a postmortem or, what went wrong, what went right. I want to show you guys something. Evie, Eisenhower, you're too young. Remember, the first few minutes, I'm just going to like talk to my kiddos and let you guys know what I've been up to. And then after that, you guys can jump off and let the mommies and daddies talk about what's going on. And as a reminder, if you're watching this every single night at 7 p.m. Pacific, you can give me a call, just like literally FaceTime me, and I will bing you in. And you can have your anonymity if you want to just call in and have it be, anonymous. That's totally fine. Or you can come on and share your family court story because I have so many, like so many videos and testimonies. And so this is just going to be like my nightly accountability where I talk to you guys, stream for like 30 minutes to get my views up so that my ex-husband can like help monetize his page because he wants child support, which he's not going to get because we're doing an order to show cause, blah, blah, blah. Talk about that later. But where was I going with that? I hesitate to share a lot of this because, I know my ex-husband still follows me. And there's something that I discovered on my computer recently that proves it. But until the Presidio of Monterey police complete their investigation, I'm just going to like kind of hold. So I might share something on Instagram tomorrow when I'm doing it like live, just for one, oversight and accountability, to teach other survivors like how to keep yourself safe when you are dealing with an apex predator like I am. And 3, just like things that I didn't know early in my domestic violence journey that had I known, it would have kept me safe, but also had I known, I would have been able to like document what he was doing. So Ellie and Evie, mommy took Luna Girl, my dog, my service animal, for a really long walk today. And then I stretched in the park and I checked out this neighborhood that I was like, all right, I don't know. Is this somewhere where I could end up being long-term with my kiddos? Because part of being a military spouse is I was talking to another military member last night and they said it's like a diaspora. And that really is exactly what it is. Like you have friends everywhere, but nowhere because you're always moving and they're always moving. And so you might have a ton of friends in Monterey like I did. And then all of a sudden they all are gone. And you're like, where'd everybody go? It's like, oh yeah, we moved. And it's different for like different ranks and different jobs and all that. But that is definitely something that military families struggle with, and figuring out where you want to be long term when maybe like home wasn't a great place to be growing up. So it's not like you necessarily want to go back. So a lot of people stay in the military for as long as they possibly can because home wasn't really a home. And there's a lot of people in the military who joined specifically to get away from home. So that's something that I'm going to be talking a lot more about coming up. There is a father in family court who I'm hoping he's watching this and is going to reach out to me. We've been talking a lot about the family advocacy program and how it just quite literally is an institutional betrayal because it's a system that is meant to help military families. And yet in every single private face group I've been in, every single military support group I've been in, the family advocacy program does not seem to be doing that. And then we were talking about some of these cohort studies. So like, let me show you guys those really quick. So, gosh, since I don't even know, Millennium Cohort Study. So since I was a young military spouse, and I honestly cannot even remember when, they started doing this thing called the Millennium Cohort Study, and they would every year send us questions about like military life and really interested in getting the results of this. So this one is for the families, the spouses. And so it's like for researchers, for participants, update contact. I'm going to dig into this study methodology, funding, and figure out. So the Millennium Cohort Program is based at the Naval Health Research Center in San Diego. It's one of 8 laboratories affiliated with the Naval Medical Research Center in Silver Spring, Maryland, within the U.S. Navy Bureau of Medicine and Surgery. So that's also in Silver Spring, Maryland, where the U.S. Navy Bureau is. That's also where Walter Reed is for like the Army, which is like the Walter Reed Hospital is like our largest military, for active duty soldiers. It's where a lot of the guys and gals coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that got like blown to smithereens went back to. And they had kind of like Ronald McDonald houses where families would stay while their soldiers were recovering. So the NHRC supports military missions readiness through research and development, providing high value, high impact solutions to the health and readiness challenges faced by our military population on the battlefield, at sea, on foreign shores, and at home. The Millennium Cohort Study is being conducted with the support of the Defense Health Program within the Defense Health Agency, the DHA, and the Department of Defense, DOD, established the DHA in 2013 as part of a larger effort to reorganize its healthcare programs and services. The family study also receives additional support from the DOD Office of Military Community and Family Policy, MCNFP, and the Department of Veterans Affairs. So if we dig into where that funding is, it goes to the Family Advocacy Program. And I'm surprised it's only been since 2013. I guess that kind of makes sense. I was a military spouse starting in 2007, but I remember doing these surveys like every year for like ever since I became a mom, because I was like, oh, because you get a $5 Starbucks gift card. So like every year I'd do it. And I actually like value that somewhere my data is stored to show at least the last 12 years of my journey as a military spouse. And I think it's really funny that here I am getting out of the military as a spouse and still interested in making sure that the military has the information that it needs to make military life better for the future. And I think there's a lot of military spouses who are kind of in this vein because just society is changing so much. The traditional stay-at-home formula isn't working. And the military is going to realize very quickly that they have a, I don't know what you want to call it, but they have a PR issue on their hands because the young spouses are not, they're not handling it. They're not subscribing. Family advocacy. Oh, let's go to this one. This is the one that I have the most problem with. And I will show you the actual woman who literally is like, run, don't walk, run if you see this. So here's the Presidio of Monterey. So the Presidio of Monterey is actually a multi-institution duty station. So it's in Monterey, California, and the Presidio itself is an Army base. It's an active duty Army base. But a lot of their services and programs are run through the Navy because they have housing that's adjacent that is owned by the Navy. They also have the Naval Postgraduate School there. And this is in Monterey Peninsula, and it's a very, very insulated community. And then the local community is even smaller, and they tend to just kind of literally bubble in the military and then go like, okay, you guys stay there and you guys deal with your own problems, and we're going to be like over here. And that's why, hold on, let me show you something. This is going to be part of my congressional inquiry follow-up. Look at this, you guys. This is pretty. It's going to be where I record my podcast when I've got a guest. Let's give you something pretty to look at. Okay, here we go. So these are all of the police reports that were done against my service member that like literally went straight back to the military. And what the military should have done was investigate these. But instead, what they did was threw them in the trash. So these are all reports of him violating his restraining order, violating his protective order, stalking, harassing, intimidating my friends, intimidating fellow military spouses. Like it just goes on and on and on. So every single one of these reports was referred to the military chain of command, which means that the self-licking lollipop that perpetuates abuse in the DOD knew that all this was going on, but did nothing to address any of it. So the good news is the Presidio of Monterey, what up guys? Thanks for following, follows my social media. I don't know who your social media person is, but over on Instagram, you guys are amazing. I think it's because I dropped a couple of like, hey, when's Colonel Artino gonna change the policies for perpetrators of domestic violence at the Presidio, or like, when are they going to like take accountability for it? And now everybody's like, hold on a second. This lady that this lieutenant colonel said was crazy is actually kind of looking like maybe she's not crazy. And maybe she's actually super put together and has all of her evidence documented. And we would like to see that. So this is all of the civilian reports that basically the Presidio of Monterey wiped their ass with. They just literally were like, man, fuck off. And what happened is that the local police in Pacific Grove and Monterey County were not able to take any action, as well as the police in Dare County, North Carolina, where my ex-husband falsely imprisoned me in our house for over 8 minutes when I was trying to leave, and then called the police to threaten to try to scare me to not let me leave. And they were like, hey, bro, you can't do that. You got to let her go. And so he finally did. But all of those reports went back to the military, and the military was like, yeah, we're going to like do a CID investigation, which is criminal investigation. The Army's criminal investigation division did their own investigation, but they didn't take any of this into account, because when I FOIA'd all those documents, none of these were there. So basically what happened is me as a military spouse off of the military installation reported to local authorities, and not just me, other military spouses and other teachers and other individuals who like saw what he was doing, reported him. And then those local institutions gave that to the military. Here's what the military did with it. Nothing. That's what the military did with it. When I FOIA'd the documents to see what exactly made it into the CID report into my ex-husband, and remember, get a dossier. The thing with the United States, the thing with the Epstein list is everybody kept saying like, oh, where's the list with this? Where's the list? And I kept saying, guys, it's not a list. It's a dossier, meaning it's a collection of emails, flight logs, receipts, appointments, calendars, all of the things. And now that they're going public and everybody can see like, oh, it really isn't as simple as like a list. It's like, blah. But I will say this, they could very easily just have a list of names and publish those. And if your name appears, you could search it and be like, well, why does my name appear? Like Joe Rogan, his name appeared. And then you go and search it and you're like, oh, well, Epstein was trying to like honeypot him into, coming and being engaged with him. Partying, going to the island or something like that. But Rogan smartly didn't fall for it. So what you should be keeping for your family law case is a dossier. So I did this for the military. I kept a dossier on all of these individuals. And the main players were Colonel Samuel Klein, who went to college with my ex-husband. So let's look him up. And just as a reminder, you guys pay their salaries. These are uniformed service members, which means they are quasi-public figures because you pay their salary. This is not me doxing. This is not me harassing. This is not me stalking or intimidating. This is me simply saying, hey, this is a garrison commander named Colonel Samuel Klein. This is his history. This is when he served at the Presidio. And these are the actions and behaviors that he demonstrated both towards me and with witnesses. Right? So we'll come back to the family advocacy program because essentially the family advocacy program is supposed to, it's responsible for the prevention of and response to child abuse and neglect and domestic abuse, intimate partner violence in military families. It works with civilian social service agencies, military and civilian, medical providers, law enforcement, legal personnel, chaplains, and child and youth programs to provide a coordinated community response. The goal of the program is to promote the prevention, early identification, reporting, and treatment of child and intimate partner abuse. Program services vary by installation, but generally include public awareness campaigns, education, and support for individuals, couples, and parents. Parenting support groups at every age, child safety, clinical referral. Okay. So in our county, and they have like restricted and unrestricted reports. They've got domestic violence, child abuse, and neglect. Literally, I've never met anybody who has gone into the family advocacy program and like had it go well for them. Now let's find Jillian Santiago, Monterey. Here she is, the devil. She's not really the devil, but Brianna she works with. It's like these two women are horrific. Okay, so this woman's name is Jillian Santiago or something like that. And she is now retired. I don't know if she was forced out or got retired, but get this. She retaliated against another military spouse who worked at the Presidio. And there were actually a group of them who worked at the Presidio. So she retaliated against the wrong person because she thought that this one foreign area officer spouse is the one who told me she was retiring. And then I found out way down the line that she got retaliated against. I was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? I'm so sorry. And she's like, yeah, it was pretty effed up. And I was like, girl, I didn't even hear it from you. That's the worst part. I was like, you want to sue her? Because like, I can prove where I heard it from that she was retiring and it wasn't you. It was another military spouse because get this, military spouses know that I'm telling the truth because you don't have this much evidence and you don't spend this long in the military without like being documented, because not a lot of people would be willing to go up against the chain of command, let alone a colonel or a lieutenant colonel. And I'm like, fuck you guys. These were literally our neighbors and they were Daniel, my ex-husband's peers. And so I knew at a certain point when the military was covering up the toxic mold and the housing, and then they started retaliating against me for helping a couple of other military families set up key TAM lawsuits against the government for their lies, that I was in for it. I didn't think that they would get my ex to cooperate on like in the manner that they did, but they did. So where I'm going with all this is like, keep your dossiers. Okay. And this is how with like the same thing with the Epstein files, we're going to go through and at some point there will be like, here's what I want to say. Having gone through a records breach, which was literally, I mean, it almost killed me. It literally almost killed me in December. And when I'm saying a records breach, let me show you. Oh my gosh. Okay. I will pop over there quickly and then we will, and then we'll get back to this. So I went through a records breach. If you go to my YouTube and you go to the postmortem California Superior Court, you can see I just uploaded all these today. This actually was a very big deal for me, like getting all this done today. So I shared what had happened, which was that the County of Monterey inadvertently disclosed my confidential sexual assault and mental health and medical records. And the way that I found that out in the civilian court was I went to go to court on the 19th of November when the judge had ordered me to be there in person. And I went to go check on the night of the 18th, like what time court was the next morning. And it's not on the agenda. And I'm like, what's going on? That's so weird. And then there was 2 orders put on the docket, which now they have updated their website so you can't see this stuff. And again, this is why it is so important to do your own research, keep your own dossiers. I screenshot everything. I print and save everything. So these are old, and I can't show them because these are from our confidential ones. But if you go in like for my divorce one, I can. But these are for my domestic violence restraining order against him and then his against me. And you can actually go and see like who the parties were. And then you can see like how many times we were in court. And then there used to even be one where you could see like what minutes and all that were ordered. And what's crazy is just by printing out these 2 documents, his against mine, mine against him, I sent it to my girlfriend and I said, literally 2 documents prove litigation abuse on him. Because what perpetrators of domestic violence do is this thing called DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. So literally anything that your perpetrator is saying against you, just assume that they're doing that. So like every accusation that he could have made, he did. And every time I was like, why would he say that? I don't get it. Like, I'm not doing this. And I would get so defensive. And then I realized that that is literally a playbook that narcissists use and domestic violence perpetrators use. And when you actually like watch enough like case studies or like, people on social media will record these things, you can see the patterns. And then we took a bunch of transcripts that he had submitted to the court. We took a bunch of transcripts that I was never able to submit. And a domestic violence expert analyzed them and like went line by line and showed, they're like, okay, look, Autumn, here on this line, this is where you clearly state this. And then he comes back and instead of saying like, oh, I'm sorry and taking accountability or not even saying I'm sorry, but like acknowledging your position, he goes behind and makes you the person that did the bad thing. And you're like, wait, what? Like, I don't understand. And so 1, that was very helpful in my healing. And 2, by keeping my own dossier, right, of all of my own files, of all of my own players, I was able to go back into my own court case and see where he accused me of litigation abuse. But we could quite literally pull up the docket and look, he had 20, I'm not giving the actual dates because I don't want to talk about confidential stuff, but to give an exact example, he had 25 court schedulings that he requested. I had 5. You can see where there's a difference. He had 25 that I had to respond to. I had 5 that he had to respond to. So then you can see like who the main instigator is. And this has been really important when I'm going through, because we have a new judge and showing like, well, Your Honor, the initial judge, Judge Wilden, has recused. And we don't know why she's recused, but she recused under 170.1 CCP, which states that, let me show you, 170.1 CCP. So California Civil Code of Procedure is a judge shall be disqualified if any one or more of the following is true. The judge has personal knowledge of disputed evidentiary facts concerning the proceeding. And she didn't do a sub thing, so I don't know what it is. We just know that it is this 170.1. A judge shall be deemed to have personal knowledge within the meaning of this paragraph if the judge or the spouse of the judge or person within the 3rd degree of relationship to either of them or the spouse of a person is to the judge's knowledge likely to be a material witness in the proceedings. So I don't think that one pertains because I don't know anybody in her family. The judge served as a lawyer in the proceedings or any other proceedings involving the same issues. No. A judge shall be deemed to have served as a lawyer within that. No. Okay, so let's go down to C. A judge who served as a lawyer for or officer of a public agency that is party to the proceedings. I don't think so. The judge has a financial interest in the subject matter. No. A judge shall be deemed to have a financial interest. Okay, no. A judge has a duty to make reasonable efforts to inform himself about his or her personal and fiduciary interests and those of his or her spouse. No. Okay. The judge or the spouse of the judge or person with a 3rd degree is party to the proceeding or no. A lawyer, a spouse of a lawyer in the proceeding is the spouse or former. Okay, no. For any reason, the judge believes his or her recusal will further the interest of justice. So it could be that one. The judge believes there is a substantial doubt as to his or her capacity to be impartial. My guess would be this one because she probably saw the medical records and was like, oh my gosh. But at the same time, you almost wonder if, like, I don't know, but because they were done incorrectly, that's the only thing. I wonder if Donna Cajon, who was the county clerk who inadvertently published it, like, had done it the correct way, if maybe, um, like, if maybe the judge would have stayed on. I don't know. What I do know is that my ex-husband and his attorney accused me of harassing the judge and threatening Monterey County Court. No, I'm not harassing. I'm not threatening. I am holding you accountable. And that is literally what our judicial system is for. You called me crazy. You tried to criminalize me. Your attorney said that I had mental illness that I do not have. You said that I have bipolar disorder, which is literally defamation because I don't. And I have evidence to prove that I don't. Why? Because you made me get $30,000 worth of psych tests that show that you are the perpetrator of domestic violence and you harmed me. Coincidentally, one of those, okay, we're not going to get into it, but if you want to see something, I don't have this live, I don't think, but you could go over to my YouTube, or I guess you're on my YouTube. Somewhere in here, I have a playlist. Okay, so here's the postmortem of, like, what went right, what went wrong. I'm actually going to post this episode in here to say, like, what is currently going right. But let's see if you go to my page, and I'm going to, like, clean all this up for you guys. Oh, here we are on our nightly live. Hi, thank you guys for being here. Trebuchet podcast season 1. I'm going to get that cleaned up for you. And then past streams. Here it is. These are the what went right, what went wrong. I'm going to clean that up for you guys. My goodness, where is it? It must be hidden. Nope, there it is. Okay, so this is private. I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I have all of the psych evals, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to edit them and, like, make sure that I'm good with how I share that information. But I have an inherent distrust of medical providers because my mom is a doctor and my stepfather was a doctor, and he is a pedophile and perpetrator of domestic violence. And I say that because he had child sexual imagery of us when we were underage, and my mother used that in her divorce, and actually had a private detective who submitted that to the court under oath. So this is not hearsay. This is not defamation. These are not false accusations. This is all in a court of law. And this is why my mom and I don't talk, because she allowed perpetrators in my home as a child. And again, I have a, like, inherent distrust of medical evaluators. So I'm working with lawyers to figure out how we can share this information. But if you look up Dr. Regina Marshall, who is on my dossier of Monterey County professionals, you'll see she is the woman who was in the Maya and Sebastian Lang saga. And that's just something that's, like, we will get there when we get there. But right now, what we're looking at is how the family advocacy program completely failed my family by not following their own protocols and procedures. And basically, the military took all of these civilian reports and threw them in the garbage. Or I don't know what they did with them, but they're looking at them now. And the people who were involved, I kept their names, started with Samuel Klein. So he was the garrison commander, and his involvement started in April 2023. Then Colonel James Keevitt, he was the DLI, the Defense Language Institute, I don't know what FC stands for, commandant. And then after Colonel Klein left office or left command, it was Colonel Daniel Artino. So I'll show you guys all of what they did. And then after that, it was Colonel James Finicario, who is the POM IG, who got really shitty with me when I was in a women's shelter and I was asking him for information. And then he decided to not do his job, which is be the IG, which is the inspector general who should have been looking into this and got shitty with me. So what did I do? I FOIA'd his boss's information and I went to that IG and got the information that I needed. Because again, I'm not crazy and you took my kids. What else am I going to do with my time? I'm holding you accountable. And this is something that I started to talk about this. We're all looking at the Epstein stuff right now, right? Everybody's talking about it. It's everywhere. And if you're a victim, that's why everybody's saying, like, where are the victims? Do you know how many times those victims probably reported to literally anybody, anywhere, and nobody believed them? Why now would they come out? I reported a gajillion times in real time. And then when it was time to go to court, I wasn't allowed to even show any of this. How is that possible? Because you have lawyers protecting abusers for profit. So Brianna Cornwall literally has a website. Let's go look. Who she brags on her website about doing high value, high asset divorce, especially military divorces. And she may have removed it. But let's see. Here we go. She has all of these like articles about military divorces and how California divides it and what to do if, like basically it's like a how-to. Do I have to let California decide the pension distribution? If you want a different state, The reason why I'm talking about that is because she they tried to recriminalize me by like reporting me for restraining order violations for a restraining order that's debunked, that the Monterey County DA's office is actually finally looking at, going like, wait a second, what's happening? You're a nonviolent offender. You've got PTSD. Oh, your PTSD is caused by domestic violence. By who? Oh, by the guy who keeps reporting you to us. Wait, what police department keeps referring you to us? Oh, not any of the civilian ones, because I went through and I did a public records request for every single civilian document that I could find. And interestingly, I found out that my ex-husband had a few tickets I didn't know about. I didn't know that when I did a public records request and I just put names down, that they would do responsive documents with everything. And actually, one of the things that they did a responsive document on was for me when I had to report child abuse, not for my children, but another child while I was an educator in the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, because we had a kid come in, he had like an injury, and then it was like a whole thing. And then when you make those types of reports, you have to, there's, as a mandated reporter, there's like a protocol that happens. And I saw, and I was like, what happened on that date? Because weirdly enough, it was my anniversary. And I was like, but I was separated. And then I went and checked my calendar, my, where is it? Okay. I went and checked my own calendars to see what happened that day. And I was like, what was I doing on that day? And I like looked and I was like, oh, that was that student. But they did like a responsive request. And so I can see every single person in this case who failed me, not just uniformed service members, but people in the county. And they even sent me back like my, I need this one. They sent me back like tickets that my ex-husband got on nights, which is like really weird, that he made allegations against me. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. Like, talk about trying to deflect. Like, you got a ticket. I don't know what the ticket's for besides the traffic violation. And I know the address, but, and like, why am I doing this? Because he's trying to criminalize me so that his attorney can get like $100,000 in legal fees from me, but also so he doesn't have to share his pension as a victim of domestic violence. Now, let's go back to what I was talking about. The family advocacy program with the military is supposed to prevent all this. They're supposed to step in, intercede, and make it so that the spouse and the service member can find a path towards resolution. Instead, what they did is they allowed this family lawyer, Brianna Cornwall, who quite literally specializes in high asset military divorces and has a playbook for weaponizing a woman who's been, married for as long as I have, 17 years, and like trying to take her assets, which that's the best part. They tried to criminalize me. And now the DA actually has to look at all of the evidence. And I can say, like, well, here is a non-confidential document that's in my divorce proceedings where they claim that he shouldn't have to give me half of his military pension because I committed domestic violence and there is a pending criminal charge. And then they look at it and they go, oh, so he's weaponizing family law to criminalize you. And I said, yeah. And they go, let's check your record. They check my record. No violence, no arrests, no drugs, no alcohol, no DUIs, nothing. What do I have? Three, hold on. Oh, 3 teaching licenses in 3 states, a master's in education, and wait for it. This is my favorite part. This was when I was like, can I just like show you the type of people or the type of person that like people think I am? I sent them these. Also information that Commissioner Mendoza never let in. This is character declarations. And there are over 30 of them in here of people who within the first month, so this isn't after everything happened, this is before he drugged me through civilian court, wrote personal character statements for me. And I'm really tempted to actually sit one night and like read these. And I think I might, just as a way to like help hype myself up. I mean, I even have freaking letters from doctors saying that he used to come into my therapy sessions and not give me privacy, and that the doctor was concerned, and like we can go back. So that's why I'm not worried about the criminal charges right now, because they're going to get dismissed in the interest of justice, just like they did the first time when they went and looked and saw that he had come in and out of the house 9 times on the baby monitor during the period that he claimed he was locked out, right? Like, dude, like make it make sense. If you're going to claim that you're locked out, you better remember that there is a camera on the back door that's like got a timestamp that automatically downloads to my phone. And then maybe don't hide the Norio security cameras afterwards when the police are asking for them and when Colonel Burgess comes to get them. Yeah. So not worried about that. But what I am worried about is the fact that the family advocacy program failed my family, failed my children. And that's something that I'm going to be working with like another military service member to address. And so let's go over and look. So Jillian, this woman is the devil. I say that with love. And by love, literally, this woman's the devil. I think she probably started maybe as a genuine advocate and then got bamboozled by my ex-husband's like constant victim narrative. And I don't know if I've sent her my the confidential documents that were disclosed. But I know she follows all this because, like I said, she retaliated against another military spouse who was working in one of the other advocacy programs for another program, claiming that my girlfriend, had told me that this woman was retiring and it was supposed to be a secret. 1, it was open knowledge. 2, it was published on a internal, like when they go through and they do budgets and civilian budgets and all that. And again, like they think I'm stupid and that I'm not going to track down like where her budget comes from, like where her pay comes from. Oh yeah, Jillian, I did. I went and I looked up your salary. I went and I looked up the salary of Robin McCrae, who is with the Family Services Center in Monterey County that denied me visitation with my children, who I will be suing for 1, misuse of federal funds, and 2, it's actually called deprivation of parental rights, or deprivation of parental rights is essentially what it is. And I'm going to be using that against Jillian as well, because she is a public employee or a federal employee, and her salary was paid. And get this, federal employees think they can't be sued. Not true. You can sue a federal employee. It is difficult, but if you can show the actual malice and you stick with it long enough, you can. And you know how you do that? a toohey request. So, okay, before I put these away, basically what we have here is all of the civilian reports, all unredacted because I was the victim. And guess what's not in here? A single report by Colonel Seibel. Not a single one, which is very interesting. Why? Because all of his police reports came from, where is it? The Presidio of Monterey, which is super sus and is why they're now investigating his reports, right? Because basically what he did was I contacted Colonel Klein and Colonel Kiewit privately, and I said, hey, can we handle this as a family? FAP got involved because my ex-husband turned a false DVR, false temporary restraining order into, no, I'm sorry. He turned a false emergency protective order into a false temporary restraining order, and then lied to my family and friends and said he wasn't cooperating with the Monterey County's DA's office, and they were just pressing charges, and they're the ones who were doing this, and like, oh, I don't know what to do. They just showed up. Fuck off, Dan. You're the one that called the goddamn MPs, one. And two, you're so stupid. Like, I literally, like, I'm embarrassed for you, and like trying really hard to not be embarrassed that I was married to you for as long as I was. But I was in domestic violence and I didn't know my way out of the circle. And now that I'm like on the outside of it, looking back, I'm just like, bro, I'm actually embarrassed for you. Like, you're a lieutenant colonel in the United States Army and you're claiming to be scared of me. What you're scared of is the truth, Daniel and Jillian and Brianna and Commissioner Mendoza and Commissioner Weldon, or Judge Weldon, and Colonel Klein and Colonel Kiewit and Colonel Artino and Colonel Finicario and Captain Delgado and Sergeant Huntley and Officer McIntyre and Lieutenant Sanders. Oh, most importantly, Lieutenant Christina Gunter. Yeah, and Detective Cruz. Yeah. So these people aren't scared of me. They're scared of the truth. Just like a lot of the people who are on the Epstein list are scared that that's going to come out and their names are on it and they're going to have some explaining to do. And the reason why I'm creating this, and I'm just going to keep going with it, is to give other survivors hope that they're not going to protect your information. I'm sorry. It's just not going to happen. Like, even if your name was redacted once or a picture of you was redacted once, the internet doesn't forget. And as soon as that's out there, it's out there. And the judge in my case recused. And it took me 8 emails back and forth with the Monterey County self-help clerk to figure out why. And actually, I'll just pull those up for you guys. Hold on. Yeah, it took me 8 emails back and forth with them to figure out why. And I kept saying, like, you know, why did the judge recuse? What happened here? And whoa, my computer's going so slow. Close. There it is, case reassignment. All right, how do I show you a PDF? Open. There we go. Okay. Stop sharing that. Let's share window. This one. Okay. So go all the way down. So I find out that the case has been, the judges reassigned, or not that the judges reassigned, that the hearing is postponed. It's reset to April. And I'm like, okay, what happened? So I send them an email. Hello, I saw, look up, it's like in the middle of the night. I send it on Sunday, November 23rd. Hello, I saw in my case docket that there is an affidavit and that the case has been reassigned. I was not provided any information about this by opposing counsel. It appears they were removed from the case. Please advise. And this is all that was on the docket. Disqualification / reassignment. Affidavit, disqualification, CCP 170.1. Minute order with out of court entry with signature. And then it has all of us. But these didn't have anything. So I'm like, oh my gosh, did his attorney get removed? What happened? She writes, hello, what's your case number? So I send them back the case numbers. And then, so that's email 1. She writes me back 2. I write her back 3. And then she said, hello, the Judge Wilden disqualified herself as the judge for your upcoming hearings. It will now be heard by Judge Vallarta. See attached affidavit. And then they sent the CCP 114, which let's just pull that up as well. Out of court. Okay, let's throw that up there. I wish I could do multiple at the same time, wouldn't that be great? Here we go. This is what they provide me after 3 emails back and forth. Superior Court of California, County Clerk Caitlin Fields. There's some chicanery here with her name. I'll show you that later. Date 11/14/2025. Case number. Judge Heidi K. Wilden disqualifies herself pursuant to 170.1 CCP. So that's what we looked up earlier. Submitted to supervising judge Thomas W. Willis for reassignment. So he is the main judge. So when I did my judicial complaint about Judge Wilden, I had to do that to the Commission on Judicial Performance. And they sent me back a letter basically saying that they were investigating. But I also sent them one for Commissioner Mendoza, and they said, no, unfortunately, we're not the oversight committee for a commissioner. You have to write the letter directly to the supervising judge because they're the ones who oversees commissioners, because commissioners are actually hired employees. They're not elected officials, which, get this, guess who has the highest salary in Monterey County of all of the public officials? Commissioner Mendoza. Weird, right? Weird. At least as of 2024. I looked up her pay. You know why? Because she works for us. She works for you. She works for me. We pay her taxes. Right? We paid her to make all these bad decisions about domestic violence and not be trauma informed, not know the Americans with Disabilities Act, basically to just run roughshod over the Constitution and my rights to due process under, let me think, what was it? Amendment. Oh, that's right. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Sixth Amendment, and the 14th Amendment. But you know what? I'm the history teacher. You're the judge. So shouldn't you be the one that actually knows that? Oh, you're not a judge. You're a commissioner, which means that you are hired by the court, which means that you can be fired by the court. How do you let your boss know that you're doing a terrible job? Well, for starters, when the judge whose case you signed into recuses, that kind of raises some alarm bells. And then after I get this recusal, I file a judicial complaint. And then when that comes back, they are the ones to tell me that I need to write your judge a letter, your supervising judge. So I did. And that's where we are. We're waiting. But all of this was after my ex-husband's attorney accused me of harassing the judges. How can you harass a judge by holding them accountable for what you pay them to do as a taxpayer after they acknowledge they did something wrong? Make it make sense, right? I'm not harassing you. I'm saying, what did you do wrong? Because on the 14th of November, this document comes in and it says, Supervising Judge Thomas W. Willis assigns this matter to Judge Vanessa Vallarta in Monterey Courtroom 16, which is interesting because when I first had, never mind, I'm not gonna tell you that, but there's a new judge. In Monterey County, there's only 2. So we'll see how fair this next trial is. The 2 requests for orders currently set on Wednesday, November 19th in Department 17th are reset and will now be heard by Judge Vallarta on Thursday, April 16th in Department 16. So those were emergency hearings for protection for my children and a release of escrow funds so I didn't end up homeless. And they reset it for April. Are you guys wondering why family court is such a racket? That means that his attorney is going to continue to get rich by ignoring me and ignoring the court and just resetting things because she filed for another motion to reset it and claim that she tried to contact me. No, you didn't. My phone didn't ring. I didn't get a message. I've got your email blocked because I don't accept electronic service from you. And I never filed that with the court. So good luck proving that you've ever actually served me, Brianna. Neither here nor there. But they reset an urgent matter for April. November to December to January to February to March to April, 5 months later, when my children and pets are with a perpetrator of domestic violence. And why was he not held accountable by Commissioner Mendoza? If you go back to my other video where I talked about a motion in limine, my ex-husband's attorney submitted something called a motion in limine, which I didn't even know existed and didn't even know was in the file until I started doing a case autopsy, which literally prevented me from presenting any evidence that I had of domestic violence. How that is even possible, I don't understand, besides the fact that Mendoza is a terrible commissioner and should be off the bench. And I pray to goodness that Judge Willis is looking at this and realizing the egregious mistake that his commissioner has made. But let's get back to it. So a trial conference is reset for March 4th, blah, blah, blah. And something really interesting about their service page is here it says Katie Grant, Court of the Clerk, but then it's signed by Caitlin Fields, which was who was up here. And that's kind of weird. And again, it goes back to my dossier. Like I have another one of these for Monterey County where all of the Monterey County individuals are on another dossier. And I like literally have every single clerk that signed an order. I have every single lawyer that signed anything, which is how I found out with my criminal case the other day. Brian T. Jones was the DA who was prosecuting these first, false charges that Mendoza like reintroduced to the record. And then he got appointed as a judge on the 12th of November, but then still sat in on my hearing on the 14th of November and didn't disqualify, which means that there was an oversight, which means that he obviously my case wasn't on his radar as something that was like actually a valid case that he would have remembered. Oh, I remember charging this. It was just probably either paperwork or my best guess is that like Cornwall probably is friends with like his wife or something, which I'll figure it out. I'm like Candace Owens. I'm like, just give me a few names. Like I went and I found this girl that used to work with Cornwall and now she's in the DA's office. And I'm like, that's weird. That's weird. Wonder where her desk is. Wonder if she sits next to, I don't know, this guy's wife, right? That's why you keep the dossier. It's the same reason why at the Presidio of Monterey, Matthew Shelton is the JAG. He's like the head legal counsel who advised Colonel Klein. But oddly, he actually had previously advised me in a meeting about the toxic housing against Colonel Klein. So that's weird. And that's actually something that the DCIS is investigating, the Defense Criminal Investigative Services. And it's part of like my TUHI requests. But I will get there, guys. I will like explain this all. And the reason why I'm walking you through this is so you can see how, as hard as it is to look at your documents, if you can just get through it, you will have all of the information of what went wrong, who did what, when, where, how, and then how to hold them accountable, which is what we're going to do at the end of this thing, because this is going to be, part one of what went right. Okay. So Katie Grant signs this. Now here's something to look at that's very interesting. The date on this is the 14th, Katie Grant. Okay. That's weird because then it says Caitlin Grant. That's fine. They send it to his attorney. They did not send it to me. That was a lie. I had to get it by emailing them. So this right here is false. I never got any of this. And then date 14 signed. Okay, that's fine. Now back to the emails, right? So it took me 3 emails to get this, even though they say they emailed me a copy. No, they absolutely didn't. Sure didn't. And you know what we do here? We go and we say, oh, you emailed me that? Okay, awesome. Could you send me the metadata? Just send me the metadata. Yeah, because there will be somewhere that shows that that happened. So send me the metadata. Oh, there isn't metadata? Interesting. You can't just say that you served somebody if you didn't actually serve them. So that was a lie. And then on top of it, that address is a PO box, and it takes weeks, if not months, for me to get stuff that goes there. And sometimes I don't even get it. Like I've sent stuff to that address that I've never received, like that I'm expecting. Like, if I bought something or something like that. Okay, so that's the first one. Now let's go to our other documents. Back to the email. Here we go. So, that's the wrong one. That's the wrong one. Oh no, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. Okay, so we can close this. Where is it, guys? There it is. Okay, so she sends me Judge Wilden's affidavit. And then I said, hello, thank you for providing the out-of-court entry dated 11/14/2025. I see that Judge Heidi Wilden self-disqualified pursuant to CCP 170.1, and the matter has been reassigned to Judge Vanessa Vallarta. I did not receive any prior notice of the judge's intent to recuse herself, so I would like to confirm. Mind you, I wrote this on November 20th, and they've claimed that they had sent it to me, remember, via email on the 14th, right? Look at that. So right here, they're saying we sent it to you via email. No, you didn't. I don't have that. So could you show me where you sent that? Let's go back. So I see that Judge Wilden self-disqualified pursuant to CCP 170.1, and the matter has been reassigned to Judge Vanessa Vallarta. I did not receive any prior notice of the judge's intent to recuse herself. So I'd like to confirm. 1, whether any related filings, complaints, or internal memos triggered the self-disqualification. 2, whether any party submitted anything to the court prior to the recusal. And 3, whether opposing counsel has formally withdrawn or remains listed as the counsel of record. Thank you for the assistance. Because at this point, I still cannot get a hold of my ex-husband's attorney. I'm being like, the doxing is starting and it's getting louder, but I'm not connecting the fact that they'd published my records. Like I couldn't identify where the leak was coming from, but I was already seeing the signs of it, the public postings, the threats, the text messages, the people coming by the house, packages disappearing, like little things were starting to pop up, but not enough that like I actually thought it was anything more than my ex-husband. So I asked them that. And then they say, there are no notes as to why she disqualified herself. Also, the attorney is still in the case and has not withdrawn. Let's go back and count. So I've emailed her once. She responded twice. I emailed back a third time. She responded a fourth time. I wrote back a fifth time. She writes back a sixth time. And remind you, she says, there are no notes as to why she disqualified herself. Also, the attorney is still on the record and has not withdrawn. Okay, so that's 6 emails back and forth. And I just am not going to take no for an answer because I had already seen in the docket that there were 3 entries. So at the very least, I should, if I've gotten this affidavit of disqualification, I should get this and I should get this. So I'm still confused as to why I didn't get 3 because there were 3 things posted. Where are they? I only got 2. So I write her back after she says there's no notes. I said, that's just not the answer I'm going to accept because my kids are on the line. And so if somebody has unlawfully stolen your children, are you going to accept the answer of, well, I don't know. It clearly looks like there's 3 things here that should be showing, but they're not. So let's dig in. So I write her back. And this is the 24th of November. This is the week going into Thanksgiving. Request for copy of minute orders and clarification regarding the disqualification, CCP 170.1. Hello, thank you for providing the notice of reassignment in case 23FL001112. Elizabeth Seibel versus Daniel Seibel. My first name is Elizabeth Autumn. My middle name is actually Laurel, so I only go by the second part of my first name. Fun, random, not interesting fact. I'm writing to request a copy of the full minute order associated with Judge Wilden's self-disqualification under CCP 170.1, including any internal notes or information explaining the basis for the recusal. 2, confirmation whether any written findings or supplemental documents accompanied the reassignment. And 3, confirmation whether opposing counsel, Brianna Cornwell, remains counsel of record, as she has not withdrawn but is refusing to provide documentation or return calls. To ensure I have a complete record, please email 1, the full minutes for the 11/14/2025 CCP 170 disqualification, any internal notes, attachments, or orders provided to the supervising judge, and any related filings or notices that may or may not yet appear in the online docket. Appreciate your help in obtaining these documents. And then I give like my full name just in case. And I'm like, now I'm just like giving more and more information, thinking like, maybe they just don't have the information. So that's my 7th email to her. Boom. On number 8, Robin Welch, who is a self-help lawyer at the City of Monterey, who weirdly enough actually is one of my doctor's moms. That's how small this community is. And again, that's why you keep your SEA, because the top lawyer at the Presidio of Monterey, his wife, Dr. Fromm, was my dentist, who knew about the toxic military housing, and I had reported to her, and she did not report to the licensing boards or to the local authorities as she's supposed to. How do I know that? Oh my gosh, you guys, because I did a public records request for anything that was reported by any of my doctors. I also reached out to the dental board to say, hey, I don't think this doctor made a report. And at some point, if I want to, I can actually go after Dr. Fromm's malpractice insurance. I could go after Dr. Fromm's malpractice insurance, Jillian's malpractice. Like I could go after anybody's malpractice insurance, lawyers, anybody. And that's like pretty much what I'm going to be doing for the rest of like until the end of time. Because if we don't hold these bad actors accountable for enforcing the laws, that is how we get these egregious situations like Epstein happening for years and years and years and years and years. Because just like all the Epstein victims, I screamed, I yelled, I shared. And even when I didn't want to, and I was still trying to protect my abuser because I was so deep in domestic violence, I still put the information out there that I needed to at the very least have like the bare minimum mandated, like the mandated qualifications, or like, I'm sorry, the mandated measures kick in. And again, that's why we have malpractice insurance. That's why we like chase this stuff down. And I'm working with a family or a group of families in Orange County who are doing this for a psychological evaluator who ended up falsifying her credentials and a bunch of psych evals. And once I'm done with Monterey County and like getting my DA stuff once I like clear my palate and I finally am like, hey guys, so now you see what this situation is, which by the way, if I was crazy, would I be able to sit on YouTube and even though it's not perfect, even though it's not glitzy and glamoury, would I be able to sit for an hour and show you every single document and then go, here's the email, here's the this, here's the that? No, probably not. But could somebody who's in deep trauma and healing do that? Yes. You know why? Because this is exactly what my doctors at the Amen Clinic and my counselors at the Monterey County Rape Crisis Center and my other new providers who are helping me through the Cal VCB Trauma Recovery Center, which I talked about in my last video, are encouraging me to do. Part of domestic violence and part of sexual assault and part of what these victims who are in the Epstein list is going through is this intense sense of institutional betrayal because the people, policies, procedures, and protocols that are in place that were supposed to protect us failed us. I'm a mandated reporter. I'm an educator. If a child comes into my classroom and is showing symptoms or signs of child abuse and it's consistent and documented over time, or they report something to me that is so egregious that I am compelled by my license to report that, that's on me to report it. But then it's also on the government to actually do something about it. And when these institutions fail us, it can literally make you go crazy. And that's what I'm seeing in family court is so many parents get into this place where they're like, I don't even know what to do. And I'm like, okay, well, I will document what I did and I will show you what I did and the processes that I did to get some semblance of justice. And even if it's not like legal justice in the way that I want it to, it's public accountability. And if I could get Brianna Cornwall's name to go viral as a like disclaimer, like in the Presidio, in the California communities of like, this woman will bleed you dry and she's corrupt and she uses all these backdoor channels through the Monterey County DA's office, then mission accomplished because I've done my duty. Like that's my public service. I'm letting you guys know about lawyers who are not meeting their fiduciary duties, who are not meeting their ethical duties, and then letting you do with it what you want. And again, that's what the Epstein dossiers are all about. It's just a huge data dump showing the incredible institutional betrayal. But then for victims, I never wanted my information out there. Never, 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 never. I kept so much of it private. And part of the reason why that motion in limine was granted that Brianna Cornwall filed, excluding my information, was because I was so reticent to even report it. And it took me months to even give it to my lawyer. And when I gave it to my lawyer, they're like, why didn't you give us this to us sooner? I was like, well, I gave you some of it, which like should have been enough to stop, like to stem the tide, which is why I can go after them for malpractice. I can go after their malpractice insurance because they had the information and they didn't do anything with it. And then beyond not doing anything with it, they then took it and weaponized my disabilities and profited off of them. So like Michael Moreno encouraged coerced debt. And I'll talk about coerced debt on like a whole other podcast because I'm going to go through and like show you guys how I hold these people accountable. And at the end of the day, am I showing my hand and am I saying like, hey, this is like where you guys can come and look to see what I'm doing? Absolutely. But at the same time, I'm doing it legally at every step so that if they kill me, if I don't make it through this, or if other victims are watching this in real time going like, well, what can I do? I am doing my community service by letting you know what I am going to do to hold these people accountable so that even if I don't get to hold them accountable and they are just quite literally like Michael Moreno is the poster child for coerced debt in the state of California. Cool. I've done my job. That means that hopefully he won't do this to anybody else. Will I ever see a penny of that back? I don't know. Do I care? Yeah, a little bit because it's a lot of money. But am I doing that to get money or am I doing that to heal? I'm doing that to heal and I'm doing that to hold him accountable. And then part of my healing, because my ability to be in the classroom as an educator was taken from me and it's something that I miss deeply. That's what I'm doing here. I'm educating. And it goes back to this whole idea that they tried to criminalize me and tried to call me crazy. They tried to say she can earn $10,000 a month, but also she's a maniac. How can I earn both $10,000 a month and be a maniac and be bipolar and be all these things that I'm not? So you can't have it both ways. And that is exactly what DARVO is: deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. Back to the emails. Okay. So this was the big one. And this was when, hold on. I don't want you guys to see these emails. Boop, boop. No. Okay. Attached are 2 out-of-court entries filed in 23FL0012. When making a request, it would be helpful if you told us which of your several cases you're referring to so that we don't have to look through each of them to find what you are requesting, which is kind of weird because even though down here she asked, what case are you talking about? And I said, well, this was on the docket and it's clearly from the 23FL case. I send all them back. And then she writes back, here's the disqualification for your upcoming hearing. And it very clearly has the court case number on it. Very, very clearly has it. But yet then I write back and I said, hey, like, thank you for providing this again. Has she withdrawn? And she writes back again. I write it. Thank you for providing notice in this case. And I write the number again. And then her response is so nasty. Attached are the 2 out-of-court entries filed in 23FL00112. When making a request, it would be helpful if you told us which of your several cases you are referring to so that we don't have to look through each of them to find what you're requesting. Robin Welch. Robin, you raised a really sweet son. He's an endocrinologist, great guy, but your bedside manner needs just like a little bit, right? Because I clearly did write the case number. And if you actually looked at what the court document was, you might have just been a little bit more gentle. Like you didn't do anything wrong. You just were a little nasty, wasn't well received. and kind of made me feel like you guys were hiding something, to be totally honest, because you've worked with Commissioner Mendoza for like, I don't even know. I mean, if she's the highest paid, um, one of the highest paid employees in Monterey County, public employees, then, and you've been there like 20 years or something like that, then I don't know, something there. Also, you guys work with Donna Cajon, who is the clerk, who more and more like I don't know, I'm trying to figure out what my recourse is going to be there, but at the very least, they need retraining. Okay, so let's pull up. So this is the doozy when she goes, okay, here it's attached. Go look at it. Go look at these. And you can see for yourself. So I'm like, okay, what is it? That's 14. So this is the one that really was made me want to die, because this was when I realized why private information was out, why my doctor's name was out, why my doctor's location was out, why my email was getting flooded, why, just why, right? Like it was a lot. Here it is. You can even tell that it just like, this is hard for me. This one was hard for me. Here we go. Plaintiff, me versus him. Clerk, Donna Cajon, date the 13th of November at 8:34 a.m. I still to this day don't know what happened at 11 or at 8:34 on the 13th of November, because if we go back and look at the other document, we can see that Commissioner Wilden didn't disqualify until, let's see, she didn't disqualify until the 14th. So it's like, it's just weird. It's just weird. It's just weird. Just weird. Like, what happened on the 13th, to make her on the 14th disqualify? So this one obviously came first, and it was the 13th. And then we'll see there's some funny business with service. So here's what it says. Oh, sorry, you couldn't see the other one. I wonder if I can like share multiple at the same time. That'd be nice. Oh, I could do my entire screen? Heck yeah. Share. Yes. There we go. There we go. Now you guys can like see everything. Okay. So it has come to the court's attention that the clerk inadvertently filed confidential information under Civil Code of Procedure, Section 367.3, SH001, filed on the 14th of October, 2025. They attached psychotherapy notes. They also attached my confidential rape records. And they should have all been in their own filing under seal per a court order and a redacted and unredacted version of the document. If you'd like these under seal, you would need to submit a motion and order, and a redacted and unredacted version of the document. So here's the kicker. That's what I did. I did that, and it didn't seem to matter. Therefore, it is hereby ordered that the confidential information form under Civil Code of Procedure, Section 367.3 SH, filed on the 14th of October, be stricken and document deleted and returned to the submitting party. And then that is when Judge Vallarta signed it on the 14th, even though she entered it on, Donna Cajon entered this on the 13th. And we know here, Donna Cajon, I will give her this. She's self-identified, because when you go and pull up the actual documents, it does say her name is the clerk that stamped it. And then again, here's the certificate of mailing, but they don't claim that they emailed it, which is pretty sus. Like, if you emailed the judge recusing, why not email this? Because how else would I have known that the documents that I'm trying to submit that were previously excluded via a motion in limine by Brianna Cornwall aren't getting to you guys? So yeah, that's that. And these are all public records. It's all, for anybody to see. And it's hard, right? But at the same time, what I want to do right now is for other victims who have been exposed by systems, especially if your perpetrator is a white, wealthy man in a position of power and privilege, like my ex-husband, who claims to be a victim, which you cannot, it's contradictory. You cannot sit in a position of power and authority and then claim to be a victim when quite literally your position is what moves anybody below you, like, into the victim status. It's called punching up and punching down. So like him punching down shows that he is in the higher position. He's in the house. He's, all this stuff. And when you start to like show the evidence to real, what do you call them? Like domestic violence advocates or experts in the domestic violence field, like it became very crystal clear to me, but it took me having to look at everything. And so for any victims that are going through this, like with your files being out there, especially with like the Epstein dossier, it can be really, really, really triggering. And I don't want to sugarcoat it and say that they're going to protect your privacy, because even though we have these institutions and these systems that are meant to, what are we seeing? Victims' names and informations and pictures are being shared, but they're redacting the people sending it. Like, make it make sense. So if you're feeling disempowered and you were victimized, I get it. It fucking sucks. It's the worst. But know that there is recourse, even if it is not in the court of law. This is wild. This is day 3 that every time I go live, I get a notification from Dan. That's 3. I'm now tracking this. This is the 3rd time in 3 days that when I go live, I get a notification from one of your devices. Wild. You know what? I'm just going to show it. Okay. So, Dan, here's how I know you're still stalking me. And I'm going to do this in real time so everybody sees me turn it off. And I'm going to record on my phone so that I know. So, this is 3 nights in a row that this has happened where I've gone live. And if you go back and you watch the last 3 nights, I said this every time. I go, why does that keep beeping? Why? Like, coincidentally, when I'm live, it has not done it anytime before this, and it's not doing it anytime since. It's like 3 nights in a row makes a pattern. So I was trying to figure out how my ex-husband had information, and I had somebody use my phone, or not use my phone. I had somebody clear my phone to make sure like my iCloud wasn't syncing, nothing like that. And I still again was like, but how is he getting this info? Is it on the internet? Like, where is it? Well, I then had to submit a receipt for something, and it was like a subscription that I paid for through my Apple ID. And I went into my iPhone and I was trying to get it. And I was like, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Well, I couldn't find it on my phone. So I Google it. I was like, Apple, what do I do when, like, here, I will literally show you exactly how I did this. Wait, actually, you know what I'll do? I think I've got a video of it. Let me just send you the video, and then we can do it like that. That's probably way easier. Okay, here we go. And then I'll reverse engineer it, and I will actually delete it now because I've been waiting to see like what I was going to do with this. And tonight's the night because this is night 3 of this, and I'm just sick of it. Where is it? So if you have things shared on your iCloud, make sure you check all of your devices, not just your iPhones. Okay. Here it is. Where did it go? Whoop, whoop, whoop. That's FaceTime. Don't need that. Escaping domestic violence. Not for the faint of heart, guys. Not for the faint of heart. Where is it? Gallery. That's a letter saying that my son has building-induced asthma. What the heck? Is it in photos? Library? Years? I don't know why it's not doing this. Here it is. Okay, let's go and share it. Window, photos, share. Okay, so this was just from the other day. And while that's loading, let me show you where you guys need to go on a laptop to recreate the process. Go to your settings, click your settings, go to your Apple ID, go to your, I think it's media and purchases, subscriptions, manage. Okay, so that's where you need to go. And then done. When you're in here, and I literally discovered this. So that's where I was going to try to get my, here we go. Go to your account settings. I was trying to get the receipt for this thing. Sign in. That's wrong. Come on. Okay, well that signs in. Let's go back over here. It's still uploading. All right, we're just gonna do this in real time. So that's my old address. That's how he probably got the billing address, which was like wild for me to discover. Subscriptions. And so basically I was just clicking around in here and I found the subscriptions and then I was like, oh, there it is. Oh, okay. See all plans back. And I'm trying to get the receipt, right? And I just keep going and I finally find it in purchase history, whatever. Took me forever to find this. But while I was clicking around on it, I saw authorized devices and I was like, deauthorize all. And then I was like 4 and I counted my devices. I've got 2 iPads. I've got 2 iPhones, an iPad and my laptop. And I'm like, oh no, I don't want to, unauthorize those. Those are mine. But then I went down here to manage devices. And can you guys see this? Is it actually letting you see it? Oh my goodness. Okay, when I do that, you can't see it, huh? So let's close that up there. Where was it? Where was it, you guys? Medium purchases, subscriptions, manage. Okay, we're back. Close, done. Okay. So you click on your name, you go to account settings, and then I scroll down here and it says manage devices. And I wanted to check which 4 devices it was. So I went down here to click manage devices. And lo and behold, what do we find? Daniel's MacBook Air. That's mine. That's mine. That's mine. No, I'm sorry, that iPad's not. That's mine. That's mine. That's mine. So that is my old iPhone that is still at the house with my ex-husband. That is an iPad that's still at the house with my ex-husband. That is the MacBook that is still at the house with my ex-husband. That is an iPad that is still at the house with my ex-husband. And that is quite clearly Daniel's MacBook Air. So you can see that he is still logged in and his devices are downloading my stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove his access. And then I'm going to remove this one. 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 So now it's only my devices and then this laptop that are associated. So be careful and stay alert and make sure that you know how your devices all sync so that if you're a victim of domestic violence, the person who you're trying to get away from isn't inadvertently tracking you. So that was what I was going to show you guys tomorrow, but the Presidio of Monterey is already tracking it. So I've got to just get that to them and I've got to get it to the CID investigators. But, it never stops. When somebody wants to be in your business and wants to see what you're doing, they're going to keep doing it. And I could really care less what he's doing or what he's up to. But what I do care about is like what happened when I made all of these reports to civilian authorities and they were all pushed back. All of them were pushed back over to the Army. So you would think that within this CID investigation, I would have what? All of those reports, right? Well, I FOIA'd everything. These are the redacted versions. Now, remember, you can get a TUHI request to unredact. So this is my redacted version. I've got an unredacted version as well. And I'll show you how to do a TUHI request to get all that like down the line. TUHI, TOUHY. And that's how you can see like who said what, when, where, how, why. Like I was able to go and, in here, like granted, I was able to go through and like read what was in there and put who I thought it was or what I thought it was. And that hurt. But then when I actually like did the TUHI request and it like unredacted names and I can like very easily pull up, like, here is a letter that my aunt, who's also the medical office clerk at my mom's office, she wrote for me. And here's a letter my mom wrote for me. And then here they are a year later writing an affidavit, literally contradicting their own statements. So then all I have to do is go back to CID and say like, hey, did you guys not want to like get both sides of this? Because you clearly just did a one-sided investigation. And when I look at all the evidence that was provided, I realize it was like a hit job. It's the exact same thing that he did to me in family court. So now I just start the long and arduous process of I'm going to do this in full transparency so that if he does end up killing me, or if one of his military cronies who is on this list, my dossier, gets exposed, because like these are like actual killers. Like these are all uniformed service members who have done combat. Like they've been to war. Klein is an SF guy. So I'd be foolish to think that they wouldn't at some point maybe retaliate. And that's what I'm scared of. And so that's why I'm doing this in real time. So next, what I'm going to do is that little video that I just recorded showing like how Daniel is still in my electronic devices, will be sent over to the Presidio and to the CID officers and to the CID officers and to the Defense Criminal Investigation Services. And what am I hoping happens? Do I hope he gets arrested? Do I hope he loses rank? Do I hope? No. I just want them to do better so that this never happens to anybody else. And for other military spouses out there to realize, like, yo, this could happen to you. I could be any of you. I just so happened to be married to a lieutenant colonel and was an Army historian. So I was able to like stem the tide in real life. But not everybody is that lucky. Okay. So we will do another story time later where I read my supervisor or I read like my, what do you call it? I'll read this one. Sarah Yaki, December 7th, 2023. Sarah Yaki is my mom's sister. She is the medical director, like the office manager at my mom's office, Dr. Natalie Baylor in Palmer, Alaska. My mom was my doctor growing up, which is why the child abuse that was happening in our home was not reported, because it was happening in our home. And my mom always taught me, don't take things out of the house. Don't air your dirty laundry, which is why she told me to stay with Daniel, my ex, because the abuse wasn't that bad. And I am an officer's wife and I shouldn't air my dirty laundry. Whatever. The people of the state of California versus Elizabeth Laurel, which is weird. She didn't write Autumn. Daniel Seibel versus Elizabeth Seibel. So she wrote this in all of the cases to try to be like, hey, like, this is bad. You shouldn't do this. And then later she provided an affidavit in 2025 to the military, basically like taking back her statements. But that's because she was the office manager at my mom's medical practice and she unlawfully shared my medical records with my ex-husband's attorney, which is huge no-no, like huge no-no. So Brianna Cornwall, my ex-husband's attorney, and we can see this through the FOIA documents in the TUHI requests, because somehow the Army got some of my medical records, but they didn't get them from me, because if they had gotten them from me, they would have been complete records. Instead, what they got was very selective records, which is like, it's weird. But it's not weird. It's calculated. It's timed. It's intentional. So this is what my aunt wrote in 2023. Dear Sir, Madam, I'm writing this letter to you in support of Elizabeth Seibel. I believe it's imperative that you know my relationship with Elizabeth Autumn. I am her aunt, her mother's sister. As a relative, I have a unique perspective on Autumn's behavior with her children. I'm not writing this letter solely because she's my niece. I've also served as a guardian ad litem. This is why we got to get guardian ad litems out, because my aunt is not a good person. She should not be a guardian ad litem. She actually was charged in North Carolina and they ended up losing their house because she tried to steal money from, like, what was it? I don't know if she pled guilty or no contest, but she like tried to steal money from one of these programs, or she was accused of stealing money. Like there was some sort of something. And knowing her, because she's like never, like she's just whatever. I've also served as a guardian ad litem when I lived in North Carolina. I have experienced firsthand child abuse cases and was involved in visitation and reunification of parents with their children. With this said, I'm speaking to this situation from my guardian ad litem experience and training. I do not believe this instance rises to the level of child abuse. I believe Autumn to be a caring, compassionate, involved mom whose primary focus is the happiness of her children. I know her to have enrolled her children in a variety of extracurricular activities so that they have a well-rounded experience in life circumstances. I believe the children, Eleni, Everly, Eisenhower, all need their mother's presence in their life. I believe that a 50-50 custody arrangement would be in the best interest of the children. Respectfully submitted, Sarah B. Yaki. And that was dated December 7th, 2023. So after Sarah realized, because she testified in our civilian trial, that she could be held liable for 1, perjury, and 2, for giving medical information about me to Brianna Cornwall, which is called subjugation of perjury, because obviously anybody from anybody who provided medical care to me or was in the doctor's office, if they're not attesting to the fact that I came in and hurt somebody They shouldn't be sharing anything. So the fact that they shared my medical information with Brianna, even if they just discussed it, my aunt can now be held criminally liable. My mother can be held criminally liable. And their malpractice insurance can be sued. Now, here's the best part about this. This whole idea of subordination, I don't know, Google it. Malpractice insurance can actually go back and see if the doctor was at fault. And if they are, they can refuse to cover them under malpractice if they were like intentional in what they were doing. And so my mom the first time and my aunt the first time they like kind of like said something, okay, let's have that be like an accident. But then the fact that they then went and gave 2 affidavits in, let's see, I can't remember if it was March or February 2025, but I'll pull it up and tell you. Oh, here's another thing I found when I was going through my FOIA requests for my ex-husband's CID investigation. There were dozens of reports to the Presidio of Monterey. All of the ones that he made against me were referred to the DA for prosecution. None of the ones that I made against him were referred to the DA for prosecution. So again, all of the civilian reports got sucked up into the military. And then all of the reports I made to the Presidio of Monterey sucked up into the military. And you're just kind of like, guys, what the fuck's going on here? Like, if you're gonna do a cover-up, don't do a cover-up of a senior officer whose wife is an Army historian. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just pick somebody else. Or, you know what? Pick me, because now I will go through and systematically hold every single one of these bad actors accountable. Why? Because I am disabled from PTSD. I can't hold down a job because I have nightmares. I either can't sleep or I sleep too much. I don't eat. I just went for a walk today to just like, try to be a good pet owner and like take care of my service dog. And I don't see my kids. And so this is like really this is quite literally disabled me. And so I'm just going to like stay the course and slowly but surely hold everybody accountable. But as I was saying, I'm sorry, I got a little bit off. Let's go back. Oh, here's the other good thing about the Epstein files coming out. So there are certain people who can see any records that they want. Unredacted. And what they're going to do first is all of these documents with the Epstein file documents, they're putting them through an unredacted, like a SCIF, like a secure facility where you have to go and like have your credentials and then you can look at these documents. So there are, like, before I got the TUI requests, there was somebody who went and looked at these unredacted documents and got back to me and told me like some wild stuff, like that my ex-husband had failed his first polygraph, which, whoa. Okay. Mrs. Blank, Family Advocacy Program Supervisor, Family Advocacy Program Presidio of Monterey, who related Miss Seibel A, DOD, headquarters, agent's comments. Mrs. related that she received an email correspondence from Mrs. Seibel, wherein Mrs. Seibel disclosed she was sexually touched by without her consent. Mrs. related she did not have any additional information pertaining to the allegation about where or how she was touched. Mrs. related Miss Seibel also had made a report to the Monterey Police Department. Gee, that's weird. So you would think that on the 27th of December, 2023, long before any of this nonsense played out, the CID office would go and get the report from the Monterey Police Department. What is the purpose of having the Family Advocacy Program document this shit if CID is not even going to do their due diligence of going and finding the fucking report, you guys? If you're a victim of domestic violence and sexual assault and you are having a hard time figuring out what to do with those emotions and the insane sense of institutional betrayal, I highly recommend you start with FOIA requests. I highly recommend that you just start systematically. And so here's the thing, I have not seen my children for nearly 600 days. I have not had custody of my children in 800 plus days. I spent the first 365 days working my fucking ass off. I worked 3 jobs at Pebble Beach, at the Monterey Peninsula Unified School District, and doing casting calls for my stepmom. I worked my ass off night and day, night and day, night and day. I liquidated my savings. I ate food literally from the food bank of Monterey. I did everything except for literally sell my body for sex. That's literally the only thing I didn't do. I worked odd job. I just anything I could do to earn money or save, try to get on my feet, I did. So I spent that first year just thinking if I just do what they want, everything will be okay. That was my programming as a survivor of domestic violence. And that's why it's so critical to get the help that you need. And that's why I will say the one good thing that has ever come of this is Commissioner Mendoza forced me to sign a stipulation, which I can talk about because it was also pled into my family law case. And you guys like really fucked the pooch on that one, bitch. Sorry. Again, the righteous anger. So Commissioner Mendoza, because she didn't want anybody to know what she had done, sealed all those records, which guess what I can do? I can subpoena them and unseal them, or I can go through and appeal them and blah, blah, blah. And then once I file a federal appeal, all of that actually becomes evidence. And so then I can talk about it. Thank you, Stand With Meg, who taught me that beautiful trick. So we'll get there. But in the meantime, I spent that first year working my ass off, thinking if I went to the supervised visitations, if I did the things, it would all work out. But what I didn't realize is it's all just a giant scam and a scheme literally meant to steal our kids. And Commissioner Mendoza sealed all those records. But what she didn't do was seal the stipulation for the psych eval that she forced me to go into, which is so illegal and so against like literally all I'm going to show you guys this. Hold on. I'll pull it up. Because this one's actually really important. She forced me into a psych eval. And the only good thing that came of that was that Amen Clinic saved my life. And then did I ever want, that information to get inadvertently published? No, but it has. And so I'm dealing with it. And I resonate with I'm not in the Epstein list or the Epstein files, but can I empathize with the people who are? Yeah, because it's not something you would ever want, but when it actually happens, you're like, all right, well, my doctor said I can let it deny me a future with my children, or what do you say? I can let it deny me or define me. And I'm like, that's a good way of saying that. Pleadings, income. I guess it's pleadings. Let's see. Hold on, wait a minute. Let me put some. I could just go find it. So this was from 2024. Commissioner Mendoza forced me to sign. Well, I actually didn't sign it. My attorney, Perlman, did, and that's a whole other thing. That's where her malpractice will come into place because Brianna Cornwall submitted something unlawfully. But let's see, 2024 SOA. Is this right? There is a. Oh, you know what? I'll show you guys real quick. And the reason why it's such a big deal that these records were published is, there we go. Okay. Man. Like I said, you guys, it's like there's that movie on Netflix, Don't Fuck with Cats or something like that. The name of this movie, Don't Fuck Over an Army Historian, because I've got the receipts to prove it. Okay, So this was electronically filed in May 2023. I'm sorry, May 2024. And again, when you're getting your dossier together, this is where you go and look. So see here where it says Esmeralda Villegas, and the date and all that. That's how I knew that SH001. I'll pull it up really quick just so you guys can see it, because we're already like this deep into discovery that I'll show you why it was interesting that Donna Cajon was she's the clerk that said, on the 13th of this date, she inadvertently published the document, but then she's also the one who she signs the document saying that this was published, but she's also the one that published it. And how do we know? Hold on. Let's go. Okay, so Donna Cajon on this one, this is like the piece of paper that says like, we published these records of yours. And she did it on the 13th of November is when she like caught the error, but the error was actually made on the 14th of October, which means that my documents sat on the public docket for like almost a month, which is probably how everybody in the Epstein files feels right now. Especially if you know you're a victim, you're like, okay. Or if you're a public figure and you're a victim, you're like, how long until people find a picture of me or figure it out? And so there's that like heaviness and that fear of like, my private info is about to be exposed. So if we look, entire screen window, and all this information is already out there. So I'm not sharing anything that wasn't already shared or reshared or, put out by the powers that be. So if you look at this, we've got electronically filed Superior Court of Monterey on 10/14 at 2:16 p.m. by Donna Cajon. So again, Donna Cajon, I will say, admitted her mistake by publishing this. But if you go back to the beginning of this video, it took me 8 emails back and forth with the clerk to actually find out what had been published. I'm not going to show you these documents, but I'm going to show you enough so that you can see how egregious this is. So that's my safe at home address, completely illegal for them to publish that. It has since changed. So I'm giving you, this is like not a current, none of this is current. Email's different. Like none of that is current. So, because I did change all my information because it was published, right? So what else are we looking at? So here you should be able to file as a Jane Doe. It's got my name, Jane Doe, and this is under the Safe at Home program, which I was enrolled. And then number of pages attached, 135. 135. So including these 2 pages, it was 137 pages of my confidential documents that were exposed because this information, even though it has since changed, all this has changed, at the time, it was confidential. So on this date, Donna Cajon published it. And again, goes back to the dossier. Like, keep a dossier. So like if you're one of Epstein's victims, go back and just make a dossier. Make it like literally get a folder and put everybody's name on it, and then go through the records and start pulling it. And then you can look into civil suits. You can look into civil rights violations. You can look into anything. And that's the only way we're going to get justice. The government's not going to do this for us. We have to be the ones to do it. We as victims have to be healed enough to actually look at this stuff, look it in the face, and then walk backwards from it. And it took me, I'm now going into my 3rd year of this. The first year, like I said, I just worked, tried to put a smile on my face, tried to do what they all said to do, not realizing that like I had been taken hostage and I was negotiating with terrorists who had no intention of ever freeing me, because then how would they ever make their money? So then when I moved to LA and started to like still work on this, but also try to like heal and start a life and then like document it. Like I documented on season 1 of the Trebuchet what happened with the DOD. It took me until like August of 2025 to realize the scam that is family court, and to realize like, oh, this wasn't by accident. This was by design. just like the Epstein files. It wasn't an accident that that information didn't come out. It was clearly by design. And now that a lot of it is coming out and we've got, private citizens being detectives, we are seeing that. Okay, so back to this confidential document. Supposed to give me a pseudonym, all that. Now, I am only far as you need to see. That's page 2. And again, what's this say at the top? Confidential. So right there, she should have known, like, this is very sensitive information. It's an SH-100. Those are literally the most confidential documents there are. It is for people, 2 parties. Use this form only if you are an active participant in the Safe at Home program. We talked about the Safe at Home program. Maybe we did. Talked a little bit about the California Victims Compensation Board, but maybe I didn't talk about the Safe at Home program. So if you are a victim of domestic violence, you qualify for the Safe at Home program. And I was enrolled back in like 2023 or 2024 by the Monterey County Rape Crisis Center, where I was receiving services. And there's in different counties, there's only like there's only certain social services that can actually enroll you in this. And in Monterey County, literally the only one is the MCRCC, which means that I didn't rape my ex-husband. He's never claimed that. If somebody else had sexually assaulted him, then he would be eligible. But to my knowledge, he's not eligible to receive services from the Monterey County Rape Crisis Center because he's not a victim of sexual assault. Therefore, he could never possibly be enrolled in the MCRCC programs to then go into the Safe at Home, to then go into the California Victims Compensation Board. So you've got to really long game this and play it out. And did I ever want this information to get out? No. Did I withhold a lot of it during the trial? Yes. Why? Well, when you actually read the shit that got posted, it's because it involves sexual assault as a minor. It involves pedophilia by my stepfather. It reveals intimate partner violence by my ex-husband. It reveals information about my kids. Like, it's got everything in there, and that's why I'm not going to show it. And I pray that it has been removed, but according to the Monterey County Sheriff, as recently as December, when they went to go look at it, they were able to see it. So, I just accept that the internet doesn't forget, and it's there in perpetuity, basically. So here's the Safe at Home program. It basically is a confidential address program administered by the California Secretary of State's office and is most effective when used in an overall safety plan. Safe at Home offers a substitute mailing address to receive first-class certified and registered mail for victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, human trafficking, child abduction, or elderly dependent abuse, as well as reproductive healthcare workers and public entity employees who are in fear for their safety. This address is also accepted by the California state, county, and city governments in lieu of a residential or other mailing address where a victim can be tracked down, keeping the resident's address confidential and out of the hands of someone who might want to harm the victim. So again, that's why I had to get a new address, through them. I had to show them what they did and then get a new address because it's my job to keep that address confidential, but it's also anybody who has its job. So the court, absolutely had to keep that confidential. So if you're in, you can go and look where you can enroll. And it was actually the MCRCC that are the ones who helped me enroll. And so if you look, Monterey County, the only place that a person can enroll in that program is here, the MCRCC, not even the Family Advocacy Program with the Presidio of Monterey, which if we had an issue with sexual assault, they're called the SARCs, the Sexual Assault Response Coordinator. They would be the ones who would refer you to the MCRCC on the economy, who would then help you get enrolled in this if you were the civilian. And I don't know what the military's protocol is for service members on this, but that's where you would go to enroll. Now, the other thing I wanted to show you guys quickly is my actual enrollment document and why this is so important and incredibly egregious by my ex-husband's attorney is they were provided this documentation in August 2024. So they knew not to mail anything to my home address, right? Even if they somehow got my home address, I never gave them permission to send me anything there. I never agreed to take service there. And what they effectively did, and why I ended up getting like chased out of my house in Monterey, was that they hold on, let's grab it. Why is this not letting me? My oh my gosh, by the way, you guys, one of the what is he? He works for the bar of California. One of the investigators, his last name is Crapo. And one of my girlfriends goes, you can't make this Crapo up. And I was like, no, you can't make this Crapo up. I don't know. We thought it was funny. Okay. So in August 2024, let's go back. All right. So that's the Safe at Home program. If you guys need any information on that, that's where you can find that. Every state has the different version, but it's usually through your Secretary of State. So if you're a victim of domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, anything like that, and you need a confidential address, look up the California Safe at Home program through the Secretary of State. And then if you're in a different state, be like, what is the equivalent to this in my state? And if you can't find it, reach out to me on social media and I will help you. Okay. Now, this is important. Again, this address has changed, so this is not my current address, so I'm not showing anything that hasn't already been changed. This is the letter that I received in 2024, because it took a couple months for it to like go through. This is while I had an active military protective order against Colonel Seibel and a active civilian restraining order against him. And again, this just goes to show you how the family advocacy program, including Jillian Santellas and other individuals within that program, didn't do their due diligence to protect me. They knew that I was in this program, and yet they didn't provide that information to CID. Like, why is that not in, there's 500 pages here, guys. Why is that not in there? Huh? Why does my Special Victims Counsel, Captain Perez, why is that not in there? Right? Because it would lend validity to me as a victim? Like, I don't understand. Okay. So the important thing to look at is this was sent. So this is the address that the Monterey County DA keeps sending me mail to. That is the address where I was sexually assaulted. And the fact that I am a victim of sexual assault, and that is the address that I was assaulted at, it falls on a military base. And so anytime I've tried to report that assault to civilian authorities, they take the report, but then they say, well, we actually have to send this over to the Presidio. We have to send it over to the military. So then they send it over to the military. And as we can see in the FOIAs, the report literally never shows up. So and I'm guessing this is Miss McCormick. I have to go get my unredacted ones. And I'm using the redacted ones for the internet so that I don't accidentally say somebody's name. It like makes me stop and be like, do I want to say that person's name? Because there were some people who really like are God. They're fucking angels. They're actual angels. And they like put this stuff in there. Yeah, like it's just, it's wild that there's no report. So again, at 10 a.m., 11 a.m. on the 27th of December, 2023, this investigation was initiated upon information provided by Mrs. Blank, Family Advocacy Program Supervisor, Family Advocacy Program, Presidio of Monterey, California, 93944, PMCA, who related that Mrs. Elizabeth A. Seibel /victim, DOD ID, and they give me ID, and then they have my address, 20225 Biddle Road, Monterey, California, 93940, of Lieutenant blank, 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 headquarters company, Defense Language Institute, Foreign Language Center, Presidio of Monterey, California, was sexually touched by blank. Agent comments. Mrs. Blank related that she received an email correspondence from V. Seibel, wherein V. Seibel disclosed she was sexually touched by blank without her consent, about where or how she was touched. Mrs. Blank related V. Seibel had also made a report to the Monterey Police Department. So the fact that I reported an assault while I was in the hospital, actually, to the Monterey Police Department, and then that assault doesn't show up here in the CID investigation, is a complete and total failure of the family advocacy program and the criminal investigation program, and quite frankly, the Monterey Police Department. You guys should have been advocating. You should have been like, hey, we got this report of sexual assault. First thing you should do when somebody reports sexual assault, refer them to the MCRCC. I shouldn't have had to go and get that through a different channel, right? Here we go. So, follow up. At 10:59 on the 27th of December 2023, Monterey Resident Unit, Southwest Field Office, Department of Army Criminal Investigation Division for City of Monterey, attempted to contact Mrs. Seibel, DOD, at 20225 Biddle Road, Monterey, California, as the dependent spouse of LTC, and then it's blanked. So it says met with negative results. Yeah, because I wasn't there. So how would you have contacted me? And then it says left a voicemail. But again, the police report is not in here. And then we have it again. 2:04 on the 27th of December, SSA blank, Monterey Resident Unit, Southwest Field Office, Department of the Army Criminal Investigation Division for City of Monterey, California, attempted to contact Elizabeth Seibel, DOD, And again, they put the address there. Headquarters, Met with negative results. Voicemail left. So I could go back and check for those voicemails. And I do recall there being one voicemail that then I forwarded to my attorney, and then he returned the call. So let's keep going. 3:51, 27 December. SSA, Monterey Resident Unit, Southwest Field Office, Department of Army Criminal Investigation Division, coordinated with Mrs. A. Seibel of this address, headquarters company, who related, please direct any inquiries to my civilian legal representative, Mr. And it's redacted, but it's William Pernick, criminal defense attorney. So Mr. Pernick is the one who had his private investigator investigate my ex-husband, and is the one who also had the DA look at the footage of my ex-husband coming in and out of the house 9 times. Now, this is why this is important. I was no longer residing at that address, but the DA still, for whatever reason, had that address. And here you can clearly see that delivery of service process can be made at this location. Please note the government, okay, so it does say that it's like, just because they're in the program, it doesn't mean that it's evidence of it, but it's like, yeah, but you got to provide evidence that it did happen to get in it. So it's like saying, like, this can't be used legally. The same way that family advocacy, incident determination committee reports can't be used in a court of law, but they are, and my ex used them multiple times. But look here, this is what's so important. Brianna Cornwall was CC'd. So we have a licensed attorney in the state of California showing a CC from the Secretary of State's office saying, like, do not send any mail to this woman at any other address other than this PO box. And she just didn't. She just didn't care, right? Okay, so back to this investigative report. 11:45, December 28th, SSA, and I have to, like, you guys know I keep my own documents, which actually I could probably go. This is why I did the Tuhi request, so that I could have it in their own words. But at the same time, I have all of this right here. So boom, December 27th, email to Mr. Pernick and Ms. Perlman, RE Dan's temporary restraining order violation. Monterey Criminal Investigation Division's Agent Daly called me from 831-750-5401. Also received 2 calls from Lieutenant Gunter. That is going to be very important down the line. 12:28. Dan CC'd me on an email to the FRCRC State Department, which I was in the Federal Reserves and I still had an active clearance. And the State Department even like investigated me after the false arrest. And they were like, hey, you got to let us know if you get arrested. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just trying to stay alive. So like not really on my radar. And I ended up not having, after 5 years of inactive use of a clearance, you either have to like have a new contract to get it renewed. And I thought about going to work back at the State Department, but took a job at Pebble Beach instead, because I actually wanted my clearance to lapse so that I could start to talk about this stuff. Because if I still had a security clearance, I would be in big trouble talking about a lot of this stuff. Ariel notified me that Dan reached out to Kit, threatened and intimidated him. Pernick, 6-minute phone call. Police have not given the report to Pernick for 11/20. Vincent Daly, SSA, called special investigator. Attorney Silman assigned. She usually only prosecutes felony cases. What's interesting is Meredith Silman in the DA's office at Monterey County is the daughter of the commissioner, Stephen Silman, who is presiding over my family court hearings, Department of Child Support hearings. So he needs to recuse himself. But he's the one who said that Brianna Cornwall accessing my private information wasn't unlawful, even though we clearly have the safe at home information, which shows she shouldn't be getting my private address, nothing like that. But what we also have, and I got off topic, but stay with me, is this. And again, there is no gag on case 23FL001112. So this is proof of electronic service. It says stipulation and order, RE protective order, filed the May 22nd, 2024. Who was it served to? Brianna Cornwall. At what address? Electronic service at Attorney Cornwall. Okay, cool. That's the proof of service. So where is the actual document? Let's go back. Hey, I'm FaceTiming, or I'm YouTubing live.
Hello, YouTube Live.
Do you have a show tonight?
No, we're off.
Oh, I thought you guys were in town.
No, we play tomorrow night.
Are you in town here now or no?
Nope, I'll be there tomorrow.
Okay, artichoke. I will see you mañana.
All right, have a good night.
You too. I'll call you after I'm done. Bye. Okay. Let's go back. So if you guys want to call and chat during this, please do. I can FaceTime you in. Where is that? Let's grab the stipulation. Where is the stipulation? That's the proof of service for it. But where is the actual stipulation? Come on. This is all lawfare and money. It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting. Okay, so there is the proof of service for the protective order. So showing that Cornwall knew that there was a protective order. Notice of remote appearance, submitted trial brief. Come on, where is it? So it took me weeks to look through all of this. I know where I could go look. It's an INE, E6, signed unredacted. Oh, what is happening? Okay, well. Go look at the protective order. There it is. Got it. Okay. I don't know why that took me so long to find. Let me go find it. Again, this is why going through your stuff is so important. So, and your dossier. You're checking your clerk's names. You're checking the dates. You're checking, was it electronically filed? And if anybody claims that you were served or that you had this or anything, you go, thank you so much. Could I please have the the numbers for the certified mailing. So there will be like a certificate that shows that you were actually mailed that information. Or you just say, could I have the metadata? And if they can't provide it, then they actually cannot prove service. And so there you go. Okay. So I will say this is like maybe the one okay thing that Moreno did, but at the same time, I shouldn't have had to do these psych emails because they're so horrific, but whatever. Okay. The parties, respondent Daniel Seibel, husband. And again, this is a public case. There is no privacy on this case. None. This is a public case. There have been no sealing orders besides this one. But this is the protective order. It doesn't actually show the documents. So the purpose of this protective order is to prevent the disclosure of documents and information designated as confidential and provided herein, and to prevent the disclosure of such documents and information that the parties may agree or which the court orders to be subject to the terms and provisions of this protective order. The protective order shall limit the disclosure of responsive information exclusively to parties to this action and their attorneys and or expert witnesses who have signed an acknowledgement of an adherence to the protective order, and to ensure responsive information is not disclosed to or retained by third parties. What that means is Brianna Cornwell absolutely knew that this was protected information. She then pulled information from it and used it in a court filing in November 2025, which is like super illegal, super unethical. And I reported that to Commissioner Silman, who didn't order the information like sealed. So we have to go back and appeal that. But again, it's like, keep track of what they're doing, because you always have the appeals process, especially when you attempt to do the right thing at as it's happening. And then if the judges don't rule the way that they should, which Commissioner Silman absolutely should have stopped everything right then and there, because he used to be the presiding judge of Monterey County. Like, he's been practicing since like the 70s and sat as the presiding judge or was like on Monterey County Superior Court for like almost 20 years, maybe 30 years. So he should have known better, and he didn't. And that's pretty bad. And that means that we need more education around victims of domestic violence and sexual assault and how to protect them. Because I already even said, I was like, there is a protective order already on file for this information. And the fact that like you're not doing anything to make sure that it stays private is not okay. He did say like, well, we're not hearing what she has to say. But then the family, the Department of Child Services lawyer did listen and like went and imputed income based on the documents. So make it make sense, guys. Okay, so the protective order shall limit the disclosure of the responsive information exclusively to the parties to this action and their attorneys and or expert witnesses who have signed an acknowledgement of an adherence to the protective order, and to ensure responsive information is not disclosed to or retained by the third parties. So privilege is mine, meaning this is my report and I can say whatever I want, whenever I want, however I want, especially since I'm a victim of domestic violence and they are my medical records. It's just like privilege is yours with your attorney. If you want to record that call, if you want to have somebody else there, you can waive privilege, but it's your privilege to waive. They can't force you to, be like, oh, don't tell anybody. It's like, I just think that if you're telling the truth and you're innocent, you don't need privilege, because you would want everything to come out. And that's always kind of been my stance on it. I would like it to come out like how it's supposed to, not through illegal channels. So, okay, either party may designate in writing that certain documents are confidential documents or contain confidential information. Either party may designate in writing certain information constitutes confidential information. All responsive documents received in connection with the deposition subpoena for production of business records served on Amen Clinics by husband regarding the wife's evaluation, including without limited to the Amen Clinics history, final evaluation, Amen Clinics treatment plan, Amen Clinics continuance, performance tests, Amen Clinic's brain scan assessments, and 4 Amen Clinic brain scan images produced by the wife in this matter, as well as all other medical documents produced by wife in response to husband's request for productions of documents, set 1, dated March 14, 2024, are hereby designated as confidential documents. And the information contained therein is hereby designated as confidential information, which means that Brianna Cornwell cannot take that information and then use it so she signed this in May 2024. Maybe she forgot. She's not allowed to then take that information and put it into a report from March or in November 2025. Yeah, you're just not because you signed this. Ready? Okay. Except without prior written consent of the parties to this action, meaning me, or a court order, all confidential documents or information produced or exchanged in the course of this case, not included to information that is publicly available, my medical records were not publicly available, shall be used by the parties or parties to whom the information is produced solely for the purpose of this case. Except with prior written consent of the parties to this action or court order, confidential information or document shall not be disclosed to any person other than counsel for the respective parties to this litigation and co-counsel retained for this litigation, employees of such counsel, the parties, consultants or expert witnesses, advisors, and investigators. If any retained for trial preparation associated with this litigation or assisting counsel or party in connection with the issues in this litigation, the court. Okay, that's fine. But what she did was she took this information, put it in a filing, and then put that filing on the public docket without sealing it, without making it confidential. So she violated the protective order on that document. What's the point of even having it? When confidential documents or any document containing confidential information are to be submitted to the court in connection with the determination of any contested issue or for purposes of enforcement, such documents and declarations shall not be filed with the court. You ready? Shall not be filed with the court, which is exactly what Cornwall did, but instead shall be lodged with the court or offered into evidence at the hearing of the matter as an exhibit. So she filed it with the court. And you know how we know that she filed it with the court? It's got a stamp, right? So you go in, again, you look for the stamps on the dates that they did it. So here, Donna Cajon, whoopsie, published this. Okay, so, but shall be lodged with the court or offered into evidence hearing of the matter as an exhibit. So she didn't offer this as an exhibit. She offered it as a pleading, which was stamped and filed with the court on November 12th, I think. I've got to go pull it up. Copies of such declarations or documents so served may be lodged with the court under seal prior to the time of the hearing in order for the court to review it prior to the hearing. So Cornwall did not do that. I tried to do that by submitting it under seal, and then Donna Cajon inadvertently published it. So I did it the right way. I did a redacted and unredacted, and that's where we are. Okay. Where were we? Page 3. At the conclusion of any hearing in which exhibits containing confidential documents or confidential information are submitted as exhibits, such exhibits shall be returned to and retained by counsel for the submitting party until the expiration of time for filing request for appellate review has expired. So I'm going to be doing an appellate review. If a party contends that any material is not entitled to confidential treatment, such party may apply to the court for an order determining that the designated materials are not confidential information. Notice of any such application to the court shall be given to the other party and any non-party who has designated the materials as confidential information. Here's the kicker. Cornwall claims that because she was in receipt of my rape crisis documents, that she was allowed to put them in a filing. One, boo on you. That's terrible practice. And you should be investigated by all the powers that be, because you have a history of sharing confidential sexual assault information of other victims of yours. We've already gone over that at length on other podcasts. But furthermore, whatever she received from the documents from the Monterey County Rape Crisis Center, those weren't my Amen clinic reports. And even if my Amen clinic reports were sent to her by me, there's still the protective order for them. So she's literally not allowed to use them, but she did. And not just on a little filing. She wrote a 118-page brief. And then when you go line for line and you pull out the information of what she says, it's literally pulled. I almost wonder if she used AI to make her pleading. Okay, 10. This order may be amended without leave of the court by the agreement of the undersigned in the form of a stipulation that shall be filed with the court. Okay, I did not sign a stipulation. This order shall remain in full force and effect during the entirety of this litigation and thereafter, until modified, superseded, or terminated on the record by the agreement of the parties hereto or by order of the court. 11. Should confidential information be disclosed through inadvertence or otherwise, to any person or party not entitled to receive the same hereunder, the parties hereby agree to use their best efforts to bind such persons to the terms of the stipulation and order, and that person shall be informed promptly of all the provisions in the stipulated order by the receiving party. Such person shall be identified immediately to the other person's attorney, and steps shall be taken to ensure such parties maintain the confidentiality as set forth in the stipulation order. 2. The stipulation may be signed in counterparts, facsimiles, PDFs, all originals, whatever. Okay. And then what do we have there? Oh, cuckoo. Brianna Cornwall. Signed by Heidi Wilden, the judge who accused. So awesome. Love that for us. Thank you guys. All right. So we're going to leave it there. This was a doozy, but that is part one of what went right in family court. And it hasn't actually gone right, but I'm now in the process of holding these individuals accountable. I've contacted the state of California and I filed my my claim against them for what happened in Monterey County. And actually, that's something that I'm going to show you guys. This is going to be the last thing I'm going to show you. Here we go. Where to find enrolling agency government claims form. Okay. So if the court inadvertently publishes something of yours, so pursuant to the California Government Code, beginning at section 900, any individual seeking to file a claim for money or damages against the judicial branch must first file a written government claim. While there's no established form for filing a government claim, Government Code does list the items of information that must be included in this form. So this is what it looks like. And this is what I'm going to be filling out tonight and then sending via certified mail. Once you've completed and signed the form, you can return it to the court by handing it to a clerk at any of the filing windows at any branch of the something courthouse, or mail the original signed claim to the following address. The information included in and omitted from a government claim can have serious legal consequences. For instructions on how to most effectively fill out a government claim form, you should consult with a qualified attorney. Okay, so this is where I've got to send it. This is the form that I've got to do. And that's, where I got to send it. That's what I got to do. And I'm going to be working on that tonight because I did one against the County of Monterey for other things. And I didn't fill it out exactly correct. And they came back and they said, oh, we're not the right ones for this. You got to take it over to the judicial branch. And I was like, no, but God never gives us, it's like no work is wasted, because now what I have is I have a claim number. I have the date of the incident, and I have documentation that I tried to file a claim within like the time that you have to. And I also have the insurance, what did they say? I have the third-party claims administrator for the County of Monterey. And I have the claims adjuster's information. So while it might not be perfect, I at least am started on it, right? And we'll just go from there. Okay. Thank you guys so much. This one was a doozy, but this is part of reclaiming the narrative as a victim of domestic violence and sexual assault. And if you are struggling right now, I highly advise that you do some self-care and then start getting your documents in order and talk to a private attorney, because that's what's coming next is a shit ton of civil suits. Because notice how a lot of these guys were billionaires. It's not like they don't have the money to settle this stuff. Okay, bye.